Carter, it's just so great to reconnect with you and have you on this show. I know we met a few years ago at FinCon. Was it like 2 years ago?
I think it was 2018 or 17, one of those. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. 2018, yes.
Yeah.
That's when we met.
Yeah.
And we just hit it off. And, we were both kind of in our firms. And, I always thought so highly of you. And I'm glad we've kept in touch. And now you have this brand new course that is focused on tax. So I want to ask you a ton of questions about that. I want to ask you about your story, how you got to where you are right now, what you're doing now, all of these different things. So I guess I'll start with just asking you about this new course that you just launched. Can you tell us a little bit about that first?
For sure. Before we get started, I want to say thank you for having me on your amazing podcast. And meeting you was one of the great things that happened to me, because you gave me this notion that things were possible, because you were just doing it, ripping and running, and your energy was just contagious. So again, thank you so much. So yeah, I'll tell you about the course, but first I think I should tell you about the reason why I made it, right? Because, like reason is where purpose comes from. So as you know, I'm a CPA by nature, but I'm also a financial planner and all that good jazz. But I had so many people asking these tax questions, right? And, especially as entrepreneurs, as freelancers, as small business owners, there's so much to know, and there's so much that people don't know. And, for me as a CPA, when you specialize in something, you forget how much like the common public doesn't know about your field. And so I kept getting all these questions. And one day I just decided to make a list of them. And it was over 80 questions, right? And then I was like, you know what, instead of charging people to sit with me one-on-one and answer these same questions, how can I package these questions and answers into a course or some content that's fun, that's energetic, that's creative, and really get people to understand more about taxes, and more importantly, how to save as much money on taxes as possible. Because Angela, I don't know if you know this, but everyone's number one expense is their tax bill, right? Everyone's number one expense is their tax bill. The average person pays over 40% of their lifetime income in taxes, which is crazy.
Yeah, because there's so many different types of taxes.
So many, yeah. Federal tax, state tax, FICA, city tax, sales tax. So many taxes. And so, the average person makes over $1 million in their lifetime. So they're paying $400,000 to the IRS. And for me, I believe that you should pay the taxes owed, but you should never leave a tip, right? You shouldn't pay more taxes than you're legally required to pay. So my goal with this course was to give everybody the answers that I have, so they can grab it, get it, and then get it in an hour, and then go implement it into their life immediately. Because I feel like the thing that stops people is just they're scared and they just don't know. But if I could package it in a way that they can understand it, they can apply it.
And I think this is so important, because we go through school, we go through high school, grad school, everything, and we've never learned about personal tax. I have an accounting degree, and I never learned about. For years in my 20s, I used to pay someone to do my taxes. And one of my girlfriends was doing taxes, and I went to her, and she was like, no, I'm not doing your taxes for you. And I was like, why? You can do your own taxes. I said, no, I don't know how to do my own taxes. She was like, girl, yes. But it's sad that I went through school with an accounting degree and didn't know how to do my own taxes. I learned about audit and cost accounting and all these complex tax concepts, but never learned how to do my own personal taxes. And so as financial professionals, if we don't even know, I passed the CFP exam, and I still feel lost about taxes. I know general, but the tax code is very complex. And the average person, like you said, there's a million questions and there's no answers. And then when you do have a question, there's blogs and there's data out there, but it's not from someone who's credentialed and qualified like yourself. So I think what you're doing is so impactful for the community, for everyone to be able to say, how can I address these needs? Because you're right. A lot of people do have these questions, and I get clients all the time that are asking me, do you have a CPA? Do you have a CPA? And it's hard to find a good CPA. It's hard to find a CPA that will just return your call, like it's just crazy. So I think what you're doing is making a huge impact. And I hope that more and more people can have access to it, to see it and, know about it. And I'm glad that you're on this show talking about it. So, and I also like that you're doing something scalable, right? Because we only can meet with but so many people. And sometimes it's cost prohibitive. So a course gives more people access. It's exacting more change in a larger way. So I think that's so awesome. And I know what you're capable of. And I know you have experience working with businesses and all these different things. And so I can't even imagine all that's in that course. I feel like I need to go take the course.
And I love what you said there, because working with us one-on-one can get really expensive, right? Like, you have the credentials, I have the credentials, and, I'm not going to lower my price because I feel like I know my worth, but what I can do is package it in a way that anybody and everybody can afford it. And I feel like, when I made the course, I remember COVID is the only reason I made the course, because I had so much extra time on my hands, right? And I made it for impact. I made it for my own peace of mind to know that people have questions. I have a place that they can get answers immediately. Right. And I don't have to take the burden of taking all these extra calls and meetings. Like you said, I want to return calls, but I want to return calls in a way that I don't go crazy. So this course was just an amazing way for me to get people the answers. The community, built a community around it. We just hit over 500 students in the course yesterday, actually, which is crazy. And like they're now answering each other's questions. And I feel like we've made taxes fun, or saving on taxes fun, which is really hard to do. So it's been an amazing experience.
But everybody, like you mentioned, everybody needs this. I think about like small business owners, people who are starting a business, how there's so many costs and expenses that can add up so quickly. It's like, I see this all the time. Business owners, oh, I'm spending $2,000 on my website. I'm spending money here. I'm spending money there, everywhere. And hiring a CPA and setting your business up properly and all that's extra too. And so I just think this is great what you're doing. What I want to hear more about too is, in thinking about the course, but also separate from it, what are some of the things that people are commonly making mistakes on when it comes to taxes, or like the things that people seem to not know that is not talked about enough?
Absolutely. So, and I tell people all the time, I think it starts first with a mindset shift, right? So many people are scared of taxes and they fear it and they don't understand what it is, but it's very, very simple. The tax code is nothing more than an incentive system, right? I like to call it an incentivized game, right? Just like any other game, like basketball, football, you can't play the game if you don't know the rules, right? So first thing is to let people know the tax code is not this scary thing. The tax code is a way for the government to incentivize you to do certain things. And one of those things are the tax code is made to benefit business owners, entrepreneurs, freelancers. It's not meant to benefit employees. And that sucks. But the reason why it benefits entrepreneurs, investors, freelancers is because these people are, they're building businesses and they're putting jobs back into the economy. And if you do what the government wants you to do, they'll give you a crazy amount of tax breaks. So the first thing I tell people is like, if you want to begin to save on taxes, you need to either start a side business, a side hustle. It could be Ubering, it could be freelance, it could be Airbnb, or whatever. You start a side hustle, start a business, do some freelance work, because that's the first step to shifting into the quadrant of like massive tax saver. So that's my first point of advice. First of all, understand who the tax code benefits, and then get yourself in that position to begin benefiting.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit more about what you wrote in your bio about where you started and how you got to where you are now.
Absolutely. So where do I start? So I grew up in Chicago, right? Like in the south side of Chicago, the place that everybody talks about on TV that you don't want to go, right? And it was 9 of us in one home. So in a 3-bedroom house, 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. So like, needless to say, it was like kind of compact, but it was really fun for me as a kid. Like my cousins, my brother, all that stuff. But then, unfortunately, my grandmother had passed away, and then we kind of lost the house. So we had to stay where we're living in the Days Inn for a few months. And then, we eventually got back on our feet around high school. And then that's when my freshman year, my mother passed away due to a stroke. And then sophomore, my junior year, when I was 16, my dad passed away. So they both passed away within like a 2-year stint. And I know the jaw drop and it sucked at the time, but like I'm all about like reflection and understanding the meaning of things. And with all due respect, my parents passing was one of the best things to ever happen to me, because before then I didn't care about school. I was a C student. I was very smart, but it didn't matter, like school, like whatever, right? And I was getting kicked out of school, all that stuff. But when I turned 16 and my dad passed away, like that's when life got real. I was like, oh, there is no plan B. There's no backup plan. There's nothing. I need to get my stuff together. And at that point on, I became a straight A student. School 100% paid for, scholarships, all that stuff. So it made me grow up at 16, where most people don't grow up to 18 or 21.
Were you also the oldest sibling as well, or?
So I'm actually the youngest sibling, but I'm the youngest sibling. But like, still, for me, like, I don't want my life falling on the responsibility of somebody else, right? So for me, it was like I want to be the breadwinner in my family because nobody else went to college. So it was up to me to kind of do this thing the right way. And at that point, I grew up at 16 years old. So I had a head start on all my peers. So like I had to learn, I had to do everything. And I really got really independent and really began to take life seriously. And ever since then, it's been pretty straight up trajectory.
That story is sad. It's interesting. So many people who have reached great success have stories like that. It's crazy. Halle Berry was homeless. Tyler Perry was homeless.
Yeah.
There's a lot of very successful people who something about the struggle, like you said, kicks in where you do what you have to do. Where maybe if it weren't for that struggle and if you were just be able to be comfortable, there wouldn't have been like that push.
Yeah. And kind of to bring it to you, Angela, right? Before our call, you talked about like, having your first child, like you had this superwoman in you that you had no idea you had until you had to have it. So it's the same way when you're growing up in the struggle, whether it's being poor, whether it's being homeless, you have this superpower within you that you didn't know you had to solve problems, to be resourceful, to do whatever you have to do. And, by the grace of God, I had it at 16. So I knew I had this in me at 16. Some people don't realize they have the superpowers at 40. So for me, and I don't think it's a coincidence why these great people have success after it, because once you find out you have the superpower, there's no going back to like not knowing you have it. So you just get to know that when your back's against the wall, you're going to figure it out. And you start taking more risks. You start doing more things. So for me, again, it was one of the best things that ever happened to me, because now I know what I'm capable of, and I put that into every aspect of my life.
Yeah. And what drove you to become a financial advisor, and how did you find your niche of tax and all of that?
So I wish I tell the story all the time, but I wish I had a better answer. So I graduated high school around the recession, so around 2008, 2009. And I knew I wanted to work with numbers, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I literally Googled what job has the lowest unemployment rate, because I saw like everybody around me unemployed and losing their jobs. And CPA was the number one Google search result for the lowest unemployment rate. So like, that's what I'm going to do. And then I found one of the best schools that had a CPA program, which is like University of Illinois. And then I just went there off that. And I wish I had a better answer, but it worked out. I've never been unemployed a day in my life.
So then you studied accounting?
Yeah. So I studied accounting, got my master's degree in accounting, got the CPA, and then did that for a few years. I worked in one of the biggest accounting firms in the world. Then I was like, yo, this sucks. Like, I don't want to work 80 hours a week. I'm making great money, but I don't want to work 80 hours a week. And, and then I stumbled upon this wealth management firm, and I started working for them. And that's when I got my financial planning credentials. Like, oh, this is like more fun because I'm helping people with their money. And I eventually went and quit and started my own business. And, kind of me and you talked about that, XYPN kind of gave me the blueprint. Like, holy crap, I can work with young people and like help them with their money. Like, I do this with my friends all the time. And then I went and started my firm.
It's amazing. And then you told me that you specialize kind of you have a lot of skills and expertise in working with businesses. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the things that you see that most businesses need help with when they come to you?
Absolutely. So the number one thing that most business owners need help with is understanding all the write-offs that they're entitled to, right? Because when you go from employee to business owner, a lot of the personal expenses that you are already incurring become immediately tax deductible, what we call write-offs. So like your phone bill, right? Now if a client calls you your phone bill is tax deductible. Your computer, your headphones, certain areas of your house. So all these things that they're paying for personally, they're now getting a business deduction for. And so when I meet with people, I want to make sure they're entitled to all of their deductions. And when we have that meeting, their head kind of explodes. So I'm like, yeah, that vacation you took with your wife to Vegas for that conference, that's tax deductible. All that, like that's, you bought that car, that's, you get a $18,000 deduction for that car if you use it for business. And they're like, what? And it's just this amazing meeting of them, like the light bulb goes on and now taxes are fun versus scary.
Mm-hmm. So can you give us some, like with the car purchase, for example, because I get this question all the time. And I talk about it a lot with clients. So can you tell a little bit about the difference if you own a business and you're using the car for business, how leasing is different from purchasing or financing, I should say?
Absolutely. So when it comes to auto finances, there's a lot of rules, but I want to make it very simple, right? So if you're going to finance a car and it's going to use it for business, right, you get what's called a 179 deduction, which basically means if you finance a car and the car is worth over 18K, you can get an $18,000 deduction the first year you buy it. So if you go buy a $30,000 Lexus, you get to write off $18,000 in that first year, and then you get to write off the rest of the purchase in the years to follow. But you also get to deduct like gas, repairs, all that stuff. So you can end up getting a $20,000 plus tax deduction for buying a car that you wanted, in the first place. So that's how financing works. But leasing works a little bit differently. So with leasing, since you don't own the car, you can't get that 18K deduction because that's depreciation. But you can deduct your lease payments, your insurance, gas, repairs, all that jazz. So you still can get a healthy chunk. So what I tell people is like, you can go buy your dream car and go get a tax deduction for it. So like right now at the end of the year, it's where we do a lot of tax planning. So I'm telling my clients that, hey, do you need another car? Like, do you need a car? Like, you should go get it now. Like, one of my clients is going to buy a Tesla this week because he had a good year and he wants a Tesla. He gets a deduction and he gets some tax credits for buying a electronic car. So yeah, all those rules play in their favor.
Absolutely. And a lot of people don't know that. They, like you said, they own a business and they're still paying their own cell phone bill. They're still, all these expenses. It's like, hey, don't you use that for business? Maybe you should talk to your CPA about all of this.
Yeah, but here's the problem. Here's the problem, not to cut you off, but like a lot of CPAs are reactive instead of proactive, right? They're like, oh, here are your numbers, put into the file, and they give them the tax return back, right? And I am a proactive CPA. I'm meeting with my clients now. Tax planning season is September to December. If that's when you should be meeting with your CPA. February is too late. Like this last quarter is where you save all the money. So
I tell all my clients, meet with your CPA in June because they're chilling. Do not go in there in February, March, April trying to have
these questions.
An hour-long meeting talking about all these details. I'm like, your CPA has probably not slept, not had anything to eat. That is not the time to be trying to have a strategy session. It really is kind of common sense, but people never really think about that.
Yeah, it's too late.
I agree with you. And I think I'm not going to talk bad about most CPAs, but I'm shocked sometimes of the things that we suggest to our clients and then they go to their CPA and the CPA doesn't know what that is. Like I've had situations where I've told clients to do a backdoor Roth or what's another example? Another example is to put themselves on payroll, just different things like that. And then I lean on the CPA because, I take the whole team approach and I'm asking the CPA, like, how much should they pay themselves because they're doing the S Corp and all that stuff. And the CPA is like all over the place and can't give me any answers. And it's like, that's frustrating for me because I don't want to be an expert in every area. I just want to do me. I want to stay in my lane, And so that's why I was saying it's very hard to find a CPA. And I've had referral clients I've referred to CPAs and the CPA won't even call them back. I mean, I don't know what is going on, but you're like a diamond in the rough.
Well, so thank you for that, but I'll give you the perspective. One, just like the CFP, right? Like the CPA exam doesn't mean you know everything about taxes, right? It's a rigorous exam. You know a lot, but you don't. the amount of hours I spend studying the tax code trumps any amount of hours I spend studying for the CPA. Like I spend hours upon hours just researching new strategies and codes. So like it's like if you get the CPA and then you like don't do anything, you'll lose everything. So for me, it's about loving what I do and continuously voluntarily educating myself and getting excited when I learn new strategies. So now I can go call my clients and be like, hey, there's a new strategy that's implemented right now. And I think that that just works with, that comes with working with somebody that loves what they do, right? Somebody loves what they do, going to study it, they're going to be excited. And I think that I've been able to do that.
It goes back to the course too, because one thing I've learned as a financial planner, and I'm starting to pivot as well in this, is that when I meet one-on-one with a client, a lot of it, almost like 90% of it is me educating them.
Mm-hmm.
Teaching them about estate planning. What is a will? What is a trust? How does this work? Why should it have a healthcare directive? Why your car insurance matters, what this limit means and what that limit. I mean, it's just all educational in nature. Life insurance, different types of life insurance. This is what this type does. This is how you know how much you should have. It's like very educational. And what I realized doing it over and over and over again is that, hey, I can systematize this in a lot of ways. Like I can create videos that teach these things and I can give that out to my financial planning clients. But then it was like, oh, wait, I could also take these videos and make a course.
Mm-hmm.
And now, like you said in the beginning, now you're like, impacting so many other people who never had access to that kind of information. Because one of the things I realized is when I was at FinCon is when this light bulb went off in my mind, okay? That there were all these bloggers out there and content creators and all who do not have a CPA, do not have a CFP, do not have a master's degree in finance, do not have any of those credentials, but they're giving advice, giving information, teaching, right? So it just occurred to me, I almost felt like it was our obligation as credentialed professionals, as professionals who do have higher education in these topics, who do it every single day with clients in real life, that we almost have like an obligation to share the wealth, which is our knowledge.
Yeah, I believe you're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Because you can Google something and you'll get 5 different answers and you're still confused. Like, what should I do? So I think there's value in, hey, she's a CFP. She does this for a living, or he's a CPA. Like he knows this stuff. This is what he studies. This is what he does every day, to be getting that education from people like us versus someone who maybe researched something online or just wrote an opinion piece, for example, or whatever. Yeah, not knocking anyone, because I think everything's good, but I'm just saying it's just, there's so much there's so much information out there. I think that the general public is just like, well, what do I believe? Which one's right? Which way should I go?
Yeah, Angela, and I love that, because there's no knock on the people that are in the financial blogging, YouTubing industry that don't have the educational credentials. But I always give this analogy. Like, you can read as much about basketball as you want until you go play the sport. You'll never know. You can read as much as you want, but you can't be Michael Jordan unless you actually experience it. So the same thing with this profession, right? You can read as much as you want and regurgitate information, but until you're in the trenches with the client, working with like real life experience, it's hard to be really great at what you do. So to your point, when I went to FinCon, it really opened my eyes. Like, we have so much intellectual property. I feel selfish if I don't share it. Right. And I think that we owe it to everybody to package our information in a way that is scalable, so that instead of having a firm with 100 clients, you can have digital company with 100,000 subscribers or 1 million subscribers, and they get all the information as well. And then at a price point that they can afford, because we're talking about finances. People aren't trying to spend $1,000 on a one-on-one session, right? Where if I can break that session up into a course, people who can pay me $100, and it works the same for me, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's so valuable to do. And then they have a platform where they can review it, bring the kids in the room, review it, and it's like, now you're helping people build true, like, generational wealth.
Yeah. One of the things when I launched my firm, which was one of the scariest things I ever did in my life,
Touche.
quitting my job.
Mm-hmm.
But the market research that I did, it showed that traditional wealth management firms and the finance industry broadly focuses on high net worth individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did my research, I found that high net worth families that have $1 million of investable assets, for example, only make up 4% of the population here in the
Mm-hmm.
US. So it was like ding, ding, ding. 96% of the population is basically forgotten about by the financial industry. And you and I, we kind of came up in the financial industry and we're kind of taught like, you can't do anything outside of this and you have to just meet with clients one on one. And like, it's almost like looked down upon if you do anything else,
Mm-hmm.
anything. And so leaving the firm and going on my own, and like you said, when you met me, it was like I was just thinking outside of the box. Now, trying to make all that happen is hard, but my mindset was there like, think big, like this, because it occurred to me that there was 96% of the population out there that wasn't getting this kind of help. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I can help everybody. It's just like, how it is when you first start. You're like, I can do all things. But
Yeah.
what we're doing, I think, is so important because there are people out there that can afford this kind of one-on-one service.
Mm-hmm.
They've been doing it forever, right?
Right.
But then there's all these new people like us who are young, starting businesses, people killing it on YouTube, people killing it in different channels of business and starting their businesses. But like I mentioned before, getting access to this team of professionals is very difficult. And I just think that what you're doing and what I'm doing and people like us is just game changing. And I think that I hope more people learn about us, because it's sometimes hard for us to put ourselves out there. Like you were saying this before we even started, that you hadn't really thought about doing a course or branding and all these other things. And I think it's because of the industry we're in. We're
Mm-hmm.
trained not to be that way. So we have to almost like untrain ourselves and start pushing to put ourselves out there. Put yourself on YouTube. One of my girlfriends, she's like big on YouTube, and she tells me all the time, I can't believe such and such doesn't have a YouTube channel. I can't believe such and such isn't on YouTube. And it makes me think, man, like we just need to put ourselves out there more so that more people know we're available. Because I just wonder to myself, how many people actually know that there's financial advisors for young people? I think so many people just think, oh, I'm not rich, I can't have a financial advisor, or oh, I don't have enough money, I can't have quality tax planning, or whatever it is, that they just don't think they have access to it because they do not know that people like us exist.
I think you're absolutely right in every notion that you just spoke on. I think the reason is, like you said, a few things. Our industry is so old. It's like the old white guy with the gray hair, right? And like as a millennial, I don't want to work with that person because he doesn't understand me. And I believe in this nature and the industry that we're in. If you're going to talk with somebody about their money, it's the most close thing to their heart outside of love, right? So they have to be able to relate to you. You have to be relatable. You have to show, and the industry teaches us, don't show your personality. Like, you show them how good you are. So for me, just like starting a business, half the time spent was unlearning everything that school taught me and how being wrong is a bad thing. But as we know, the entrepreneur, being wrong is a learning experience. So the same thing with our firms and as a financial planner, as an accountant, I want to show my personality in the work that I do. I have to make taxes fun. So I have to be smiling, have to be, and I look forward to doing that and shifting the narrative. And I think that with people like you, people like me, everybody at FinCon, people with these YouTube blogging channels, like in the next 10 years, we should be able to shift the whole narrative of the industry to know that, one, young people should be thinking about money. Money is fun. Building wealth is a great thing. And that you have all these resources. So there's no excuse not to have, it's crazy. We'll spend $100,000 on school education, right? College. And again, I'm not against that. But, you could spend $1,000 on a course or learning from somebody who just went through $100,000 of education and paid 1% of what he paid and get all the knowledge directly to your computer. It's crazy.
So true, and broken down in an easy way for you to understand too.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. What you just said about young people, you said that young people should be thinking about money. It's true. That is so true. And it's so many people I think that they think, oh, I'll handle that when I get older. But now is the time, because now is where you are building whatever it is you're going to have going forward. And quite honestly, I mean, you and I both know, because we see the inside. I like to call it the inside guts of people's financial situation. But, there's people out here killing the game, young people making a lot of money, doing a lot of big things. And we see that. And sometimes I'm in sessions with clients and I'll say something and they'll just look at me like mind blown.
Yeah.
And it's just because I'm seeing what everyone's doing. And I'm like, hey, why haven't you thought of doing this? Or why haven't you thought about doing this? And clients will be like, you're right.
Nobody ever told me that.
Right. It's just crazy. I love what we do because I just feel like it's a fulfilling career. It's to help people, to impact change, to help them grow whatever their dream is, and to make that significant difference when maybe prior, especially for you with taxes and stuff and working with business owners, prior to working with you, maybe they've just been completely lost. And this is like the big missing piece of everything.
Yeah, there's no greater feeling than knowing you've changed someone's life, like obviously for the better, but like the appreciation. Like last year, I never forget, like, this client, she hired me in November. She was so stressed out. She's a great business, but like she didn't know what to do with her money. She had this money saved for taxes. She was so scared. And then when we got done, I ended up saving her $64,000 in taxes in 2 months. And like she almost in tears, like how happy she was. And then she went and bought her mother a house and bought her a car. She was just, and again, that feeling trumps any money that she could ever pay me. And it builds a relationship that you're changing someone's life. So I love that. But now my thing is, I don't want to just do that with 100 people I can fit in my firm. I want to do that with thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of people that just hear my content. So that's why I think the courses are a big thing. Speaking, giving, as you see my social media content, I'm giving all this knowledge away for free because I have a moral obligation to do so. At least I feel that way.
You know what else about the courses? I just want to touch on this and see what your experience has been. I've noticed that when people are in a group setting in my course, it's way more impactful than when it's one-on-one sometimes. Well, a lot of the time, actually. There's something about being in a setting with other people and realizing you're not the only one in that situation. Like hearing the next person is going through the same thing I'm going through. And so is she, and so is she. And that to me has been amazing to watch. It makes me just want to do more and more courses because I feel like it's so life-changing and so game-changing to see that. Because when you're one-on-one, you don't know what everyone else is doing. Like the clients don't know, they don't know how do I compare to everyone else. But in the course, just like you said, in your course, people are talking to each other. They're, interacting. There's this community being built. And what's crazy about it too, that I don't think a lot of people think about is that you're going to meet other people like yourself in that group. So like in your course, for example, there's probably a ton of people in there that are meeting other people that are in similar situations as them. And now they're talking amongst themselves. And not only are they getting the tax impact and the financial education from you, but they're probably sharing other stuff too. Like, who did your marketing? Who did this? Who, I mean, you just start connecting, like, just like we connected, you just it starts multiplying in that way. I'm sure.
No, you're absolutely right. It starts off as a community. I think to your point, so you talk to somebody one-on-one, they might feel like in the shell, they might feel stupid that they don't know the things that they feel like they should know. But when 14 other people don't know it as well, well, this is normal, and it takes them out of the shell if I don't understand to like, it's okay not to understand. Now I'm asking questions, right? And now they're bouncing questions off each other. So sometimes I just step back and let them answer each other's questions. I'm just like, you all got it. And, like they say, so, teaching something is, learning something is one thing, but when you teach it, you learn it more, right? Because now you're reciprocating the energy. So it's been an amazing journey to get to this point. And like you said, I think that the more that we do this with this online learning and building the communities and helping more people, we can be able to shift the narrative of money, of taxes, of financial freedom to a place that I think, most people didn't see coming even a few years ago.
Yeah. And I think what else, but before we end, I just want to say this too, is that I think it's cool the community that we've built of advisors. There's, this really strong people, a lot of people probably don't know about this, but there's this really strong connection and community between us kind of young financial planners, especially those of us of color and that are in XY Planning Network and all of these different things that we've just kind of been there for each other. We all have our own little niche market. We all specialize in different things and we help each other out. We send each other business and we talk and things like that. And I think that is so cool too, the community that we've built and that we've become for our communities out there as well. So I'm
Absolutely.
glad that we met, and I'm glad, to be able to call you friend and to be able to do stuff like this and to be able to talk about building business together and helping people. And we just have so much in common, all of us.
Yeah, I don't believe you're any different than the group that we are just talking about, right? Like when we started this business, I mean, imposter syndrome was so real for me. It was huge, right? I didn't think I knew what the hell I was doing. I didn't think I was well versed in everything that I knew. But like when I saw other people struggling and people giving advice and it built a community, like, okay, you know what? I can do this. We can do this. And I think that it's so needed and starting a business and doing anything, that community, that friend group that got your back when you're at the lows, because you're gonna have lows. And I think that those are the people that are gonna help you up, and that's how you build something great, is having people to lean on. So yeah, I
Yes.
can agree more.
So tell everyone how they can find you. Tell us about your different businesses and
Mhm.
also your course, of course. But I know whoever's watching this video, they're like dying to know how they can get in touch with you.
For sure. So first, you can find me on Instagram. It's Cofield_advisor. And you can see I share a lot of free knowledge and everything like that. And then if you click the link in my Instagram bio, you'll see the rest of my website. So I have a website called CofieldConcepts.com. That's where my podcast is hosted. That's where all my free master classes. You can find my tax-free living course in there as well. And so those are the two main places I'm really on. You can find me again, Instagram, Cofield_advisor, or you can go to CofieldConcepts.com and learn more about my online platform. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Oh yeah, and then my main financial planning and accounting firm is CofieldAdvisors.com. I got a lot going on, but yeah, that's where you can find me.
So one last question.
Uh-huh.
Is there such a thing as tax-free living?
Yes, absolutely. If you plan right, like all year, like I pride myself on making my tax bill as low as possible. Like, and one of the things I did this year, because I made a lot more money than expected, I went and bought a 3 flat property because I know I get to depreciate that and that's going to lower my income. So it's like a game, right? It's like, I know my tax bill. How can I get it lower? How can I get it lower? What strategies can I implement? And I want everybody to know that they have that ability to do so. So you absolutely can live tax free, but it takes a lot of planning and you got to be up for the game. And for me, if I'm gonna save 40% of my money, I think it's worth my time.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on here. I hope to have you on again, and thank you.
Anytime for you, Angela. Thank you so much for having me.